One of the most important things that I'm learning and that I continue to learn as a real estate agent is that, number one, we are in the sales business. And number two, sales is not just learning about how to sell, it's really learning about people. Let's talk about it. What's good? My name is Sean Slaughter, real estate agent and investor, and my mission is to help new real estate agents and entrepreneurs level up. When I first became a real estate agent, I really didn't think that I was going to be a salesman or be in sales. I didn't equate being a real estate agent as being in sales. I knew it was commission-based, and I remember saying that I would never be in a commission-based business because then all of a sudden I would have to do all kind of unscrupulous things in order to make my commission, because I would be so desperate to make money to pay my bills that I would lower myself to, doing dirt, right? Lying, basically, in order so I can make my commission so I can pay my bills. I think differently now about sales and about commission. And I actually believe, at least from my standpoint, that there are two types of salespeople. And this is what I want to talk about today. And you're gonna have to decide the type of salesperson that you want to be. You can either be the typical salesperson that you have in your mind, right? The guy that shoots the finger guns, that always says the right thing, that has the nice smile, that, hey, what's going on there? That type of dude, right? You can always be that dude. Or you can be the type of person who is really, really good at understanding people, understanding yourself, and because you understand yourself and because you understand people, you know how to sell a product to that person. All right, let's kind of break it down. I told you guys about this story where I had a seller who basically I recommended a contractor to fix some of the things in her house, do some painting, lay some flooring. And this contractor, well, the guy that I dealt with was actually the salesman, all right? And he did some work for me, and the contractors did a fantastic job on my personal property. I called this guy up, and I asked him to, work with this lady to fix some stuff up. And what happened was the company was so busy that instead of getting back to me and saying, hey, we're so busy, we really can't handle it right now, or we're a couple of weeks out, what he did as a salesman that works for this company is he kind of went on his own and he contacted some other contractors that not only do not work with the company that he works for, but actually used to work for the company and was fired by the company for stealing product, all right, and misusing their credit card. Additionally, these people were not even Class A contractors. My clients think that they're working with the company that he represents because he went in with the logo on his shirt. Nevertheless, they did a horrible, horrible job, and basically are in the process of being sued because they took some money. They were fired in the middle of the job and did not refund the money. Eventually, we called this guy's company and I emailed this guy's company just to complain, like, hey, your company did such a bad job, you're not giving us the money back. And the CEO of the company, the owner of the company, said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then as the story unfolded, he eventually ended up firing this guy. This guy was the idea of what we have as a salesman. He smiles, he always has the right things to say. Even in the midst of this whole fiasco, as we're talking to him, he's passing off blame, he's saying the right thing, but he's never helping to solve the issue. He even said that we were going to get a refund, and we had dealt with him for so long that we were like, oh, he's just lying. He's just buying time. And come that Friday when the refund was supposed to come, the refund never came. And so that is the type of salesman that you do not want to be. As I began to study sales and learn what a real, honest, authentic salesman is, I actually fell in love with it. All right. And the one book that I want to encourage you to read is a book called Influence. And the one thing that I learned about this from this book and many other books, like 7 Levels of Communication, I've been mentioning that book because I just finished reading that book, is this. In order for you to be a good salesperson, you have to A, understand you, and B, understand humans. So what does this mean? This means A, you have to read books for personal growth. Because there are things about you. There are things about your upbringing. There are things about how you grew up. There are things about how you talk. There are skills you bring to the table. So for instance, when it comes to me, I'm an extrovert. I have a lot of energy. I am a problem solver, so I don't mind being a problem solver. I used to be a recording artist and I was a full scholarship athlete. And so I like being creative, which lends to solving problems, but I also like, or I don't mind being under pressure or being in anxious, tense moments because I seem to rise to the occasion when anxious, tense moments arise, just like when I played football. These are just some basic things that I've learned about myself. And because I understand those things about myself, when I go into a transaction, I can clearly and accurately talk about what I can bring to the table without lying. Right? I'm also an over-communicator. I have a little bit of OCD, so I'm very, very organized and structured. These are things that I've learned about myself. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? What things have you learned as you've studied yourself and, waking up in the morning and meditated and done some self-evaluation, some self-reflection? What are some of the things that you bring to the table? What are some of the bad habits that you may have that you're bringing to the table that you have not examined, that you need to examine so that you can address them, right? And then obviously, what are the positives, like I just talked about? What are the unique things about you? Understanding those things will make you a great salesman. I know of a guy who is an older gentleman and he kills the real estate game. He knows nothing about computers. He knows nothing about social media, but this man understands the purchase agreement. And I actually was in a class where he taught the purchase agreement where he knows it by heart. And not just knows it by heart, but he understands what it's saying and he can break it down. That is his gift. So he may not be great when it comes to, doing social media and TikToks and videos and things like that. He doesn't need it. He's honed in on understanding this agreement and his ability to explain it to those that he's working with. He's also brutally honest. He calls himself an a-hole, all right? And he's brutally honest. And for some clients, I'm sure they love that. For some, it turns them away. But it's all good. He's learned the things about himself, the valuable things about himself, the unique things of value about himself that he can bring to the table. And so he doesn't have to be somebody else or put on a mask or put on a performance necessarily, right? What are the things about you? And if you can't answer that question, it's time for you to do a deep dive into who you are. Secondly, you have to understand human nature. So when I read the book Influence, one of the things that Influence talks about is what's called the click, run, response. And here's the thing that we have to understand about humans. Is that humans, when they're put in certain situations, depending on who they are, you can almost dictate their response. This is what every great company like Apple and Amazon and so on and so forth use psychologists to say, hey, how do we design this thing? How do we design this app? How do we design this phone? How do we design this platform to take advantage of people's click, run responses? Watching this documentary on Netflix, it talked about, it was interviewing some of the people that made Twitter and Netflix and Instagram, and some of those executives that were a part of those companies did not allow their kids to use the apps for the companies they were working for. You know why? Because they understood that the psychology that they were using to form the app was so honed in to the areas of a person that it could literally bypass a person's ability to make their own choice, to say no, to stop scrolling. Like, that's how addictive the design, the colors, the sounds, all those different things they put in there, literally just to tap into the human experience. Understanding, if we can do this the right way, if we could put the right color, for instance, it talked about how when you have a phone, right? And I actually turned this off on my phone. And when you see that notification thing, when you see it on an email, or you see your little Instagram and it's got the little red circle and it says 23, or you see a little Facebook or your little TikTok and it has that little red circle with that number, there is something in us that wants to get rid of that circle, right? There's something in us when we have 10 emails or 25 or 30 emails. There's something in us, in most of us, that wants to get rid of that circle so that we can feel a sense of completion, a sense of that thing is done. And so it influences us, the book Influence, to click that app and open that app up. And once we open that app, then what Facebook has done, Instagram and TikTok have done, is that they've basically tracked you to see what you like. And then using the AI, they're automatically putting posts up to keep you scrolling, to bypass your own response of stopping, right? This is why you can get on TikTok, Facebook, whatever it is, and 2 hours later, you've lost time because you're on the app. You know why? Because they've bypassed your human response to make a choice to stop. They've made it so, they become so influential, right? They've made it so difficult by, hey, if we tap into this thing, it's like click, run, and they'll automatically do it. So when you're doing real estate, understanding the human experience will help you to understand and almost guess how people are going to react. Last example, I had a client who was searching for a home and was getting a little frustrated. Interest rates had gone up and basically was going to go back to rent. And I felt like, man, if this person does not buy this house now, he's really going to regret it. It's a fantastic house. The house is going to, increase in value over time, but interest rates are going to continue to climb because that's what the Fed has told us. The interest rates are going to continue to climb. And so because I understood his motivations, I understood who he was, I learned him as a customer, but I really valued him. I didn't want to just sell him a house, but I really felt that he was making a decision because he was frustrated. It had been a year. We've been looking for houses. He had to get some things right with his credit and he was just frustrated. And so because I understood he's giving up, not because he doesn't want to get the house, but because he's frustrated. So I need to speak to that frustration. So we had this conversation. I also, understood what age he was and where he was in his life as far as, preparing to get married or whatever it was. These are the things that you need to understand about your client so that you can make a positive, have a positive effect and make a positive decision toward your client, for your client. I'm not talking about like what this other guy did, where all he's trying to do is just make money and he's going to say anything to get the sale. This is you, A, understanding yourself, and B, understanding your client and also understanding the human experience. That sometimes when people are distracted or when they're afraid, they act like this. When people are happy, they act like this. When people are having these type of issues or they're nervous, they act like this. How come this client, we keep going to see houses and they don't want to pull the trigger? Well, maybe because they're having some kind of anxiety or they're having some kind of second thoughts or so on and so forth. You'll learn that as you learn the client, but you'll also realize there are some general things within the human experience that go for all of us. This is why personality tests and, the Carl Jung personality test or the DISC test or somebody's personality test are not dead on, right? When they're explaining who you are, but they get really, really, really close to explaining some of the things inside you. You know why? Because we've had hundreds and hundreds of years to study humanity and to understand how humans respond intellectually and emotionally to certain things. Your job is to study that, understand human intelligence, understand sociology, understand how human emotion works, and then understand how those things work when it comes to somebody making the biggest purchase of their lives. If you like the content, please be sure to like, hit the sub button, and karate chop that bell for notifications. I appreciate you guys watching the House of Motivation, the place where inspiration lives.